All right, today is 24th of April 2023, and today I wanted to talk about my one trade today during my session. It's 10R, and I wanted to discuss it on camera here. So here's my higher time frame outlook on the 1 hour. I've got my buy side drawings on the left, and I've got my sell side drawings on the right hand side of the screen. As we were initiating up here, we were coming into an area and reacted from an area here. And I noticed it was a lower time frame sell primary deep mitigation. And so I annotated that because that was important to me from where we were in price. So if you can imagine, this has already happened overnight. We've had this large high time frame sort of order block that's been put in here. Good bit of inefficient price action, fair value gap, whatever you want to call it, and took out a transitional, like ticked a lot of boxes as far as like quite a good order block. It's quite qualified. You could say it's a qualified order block. So we had that happen, and then we had this kind of area here where price halted again, but it's working its way up. And so I see that. I've identified this as a cell primary block. It's the last known cell primary block, so it's the last one that I would be interested in, and it's where I think price is going to zip to. It's exactly where price has come to, right? So I was using this as a target, the order block at least, and then I had to annotate this because I needed to know if we were going to react and potentially break structure. Okay, so let's go down to our lower time frame, and then we can sort of see what's going on, right? So here's that lower time frame mitigation, and as you can see, sort of starts working its way down now. The thing I'm doing at this point, so I'm at the charts already by this point, and I'm looking at, okay, what have we mitigated? Number one, right? So you have to uh, look far left, and this one it's quite a way you have to look. But you can get it. It's not. This is what you should be doing, really, in my opinion. Is when we get a mitigation and a potential break of structure, structure's relevant. You could say you're not going to look until this point. You could say I'm not going to look until here or here. I started looking at this break structure here because I was like, well, we spiked up. This could be, it's New York. You never know what's going to happen, right? So had that mitigation, it pulls down, and all the live long day, I'm looking for a cell primary, an obvious cell primary, nonetheless, right? And I just don't get it. I don't see a cell primary form and activate at all. The only one that could have potentially had been what we consider a cell primary would have been here, and we could have said it activated here. But it's very, very low time frame. For example, this would have been a range here. Instead of being able to use this whole range, I'd like to use this whole thing as a range. I cannot because the breaker structure would have been down here. And so we then have to go, well, the range is here, right? Range, initiation, breaker structure. So that adds money up here. And then this was the range, initiation, took the liquidity, broke on itself. Okay, so that would have been the only setup we had, but it's weak. Why is it weak? Because I would have wanted to use this as the whole range, not something inside of it. That's the difference. So, as that's going on, I'm looking at my buying opportunities, right? So I haven't got a sell primary to play off, but I have got that mitigation. So I'm watching that and looking for sell primaries to form. Now, let's make the buy side bigger. Because as you can see from the buy side, we're on a 1 minute, just so everyone knows. I've got it 1 minute up here. So we've got this whole range, which is basically your buy primary. Then this range forms right before, or right after it, I should say. So we've got this one higher time frame range. Let's just scale it out like this. So this was a buy primary, and then this range formed straight after it. So this is the range I'm expecting to hold price. We've got a buy primary. We've had this mitigate the buy primary straight away. So I would be expecting this to have some form of a mitigation and then a continuation of price. So I drew that on there first of all. Let's clean this up. And then this was reduced down to this size by just refining. You can just refine through time frames and whatnot. And so I think this was a 5 minute order block. Yeah, we go to the 5 minute, you can see it's the 5 minute candle, which I'm using to refine this order block. And then anyway, so they initiate high prices after this block. I've got this block I was expecting the price to come down to, but then I notice that we get this buy primary range form, right? Go back to that 1 minute. Why is this then the buy primary that holds price while we had this range in here? Okay, so range initiation, broke structure, that adds money down here, liquidity, and then this range came in, took the money, broke on itself, and eventually broke major structure. So this is a primary range. Very interesting when they do this sort of slow movement away. I'm pretty sure it's just to trick and confuse everybody and just so that they can't really see what's going on, because you have to start seeing through things. And so if we expand this out, remember, we're not interested in this until that break of structures occurred, which is right here. So had this movement already come down, most likely, but it is interesting because it's like it's mitigated this block down to this point. However, let's actually look at it. Let's look at this real good, because I'm doubtful that it did this after the break of structure. I'd say that it probably did that move, that down move, before it broke structure. Let's go down to 15 seconds, see if we can see which way it was. No, it actually broke structure to the upside first, as we can see here, and then pulls down, mitigating down to this point here. So this actually is the range that you would likely be playing off of, or you could say that we did play off of this range, but it was kind of hard to notice because of the way in which it happened, and because it happened straight after that break instruction here. Now you can also say that this didn't activate until this point right here. So as soon as it's activated at that break structure, we could start looking for entries. Okay, so anyway, let's get out of replay mode. Either way, it doesn't really matter. We've identified a buy primary. Okay, this one is a lower time frame buy primary, something I'm not really interested in because there's no clear range that was created for liquidity purposes. So I'm not actually going to keep that drawn on. I don't like it at all. It's just wiki, big wick, right? So then in my session, I'm always looking for a setup range and an entry range. Now, what concludes a setup range and what concludes an entry range? What makes them? Well, more than likely, it's this. It's lick, 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 go. And what I mean by that is lick, 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 3 licks, and then go. And what that is liquidity grab into a liquidity grab into a liquidity grab and go. We're going to need to go to 15 seconds on this one. Okay, so here's the setup that I'm looking at. It needs to occur inside a buy primary. Remember, this is the buy primary. This needs to occur inside of a primary range, high time frame. We need to have had a high time frame mitigation, and then this should occur, right? So what was I saying? Lick, 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 go. So liquidity. So we start here. We start from a liquidity grabbed state. Notice how liquidity was built here. So this is a liquidity grabbed state that we're starting in. We then look for another liquidity grab state. So we're trying to create that primary range. So it's literally just creating 2 primary ranges back to back, right? So we've got the buy primary range and then we've got sell primary range. So here's that first range that forms. Range, initiation, break of structure, right? Where's the structural break? We're going to use this low here. Okay, so it literally just comes to it. Whether or not you want to conclude that as a break structure, it was by like a tick or whatever, and it doesn't really matter on this. The good thing about this setup is there's 3 liquidity grabs that are important, right? So we start in the liquidity grab state. We've built liquidity as soon as we broke structure and got down to this point. So there was liquidity here. So now we've gone up to another liquidity grabbed state, having taken that money. Remember, we were already in the liquidity grab state from down here. So there's 2 liquidities, 1, 2. Now the third one is down below, right? It takes out all of this here. So there's another liquidity grabbed state, right? Last thing to do is to allow it to break on itself and then to uh, break major structure or swing structure, right? So there, in this instance, it would be here. So here it breaks on itself, as it's breaking on itself, and it comes up past that line, and then we're activated. Okay. So that was the first part I saw to my trade idea, right? So I've got this setup range as fully formed, and we're initiating up and right. Now I'm always looking on the lookout for like what is price doing. So before this had a chance to exit itself, it created a whole nother buy primary inside of itself. So here's that. The secondary one has been created inside of itself. Now, we would fully expect that as we do initiate high prices, that this would hold. Why? Because it's a double primary, right? Two primaries inside of one. So that is weight there. It doesn't mean it has to hold. It's just a very good setup. It's a very good sign. And so I believe this was what I considered to be a qualified order block. Is this second one, the one inside of it? What is a qualified order block? Well, a qualified order block to me would be where you take the liquidity, right? You're taking liquidity and then breaking on yourself with speed and aggression. But not only that, having taken that liquidity from below, you're moving away with speed and aggression, leaving IPA, right? Inefficient price action, fair value gap. Excuse me. Beg your pardon. Oh, beg your pardon. Okay, so we've got this qualified order block inside of this setup. And so I'm just kind of sort of seeing what's going on. Now we had this range here start, and on different time frame is where I've got this drawn from up here, from just based on a different time frame. It might have been a 1 minute. Have a look. Um, yeah, I'm not too. I guess it was like that little. Maybe it was 30 seconds. Let's see here. Yeah, I'm unsure as to why I'm using the high from here, but I know it must have just been from a different time frame that I'm not seeing. But suffice it to say, you could also draw it on like this, right? So here would be a new primary range. You could say that all of this was range initiation break structure. And then this came in over the top and initiated higher prices. So we've got a primary range, right? And this is where things get really interesting because you've got this setup range and you've got a primary range right here. So we've got, yes, we have two primaries, right? And they connect, right? We're touching the open of this setup range here. So it was a really good location to have this happen. But the different part of it was there was no lick, 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 go, right? We didn't have a three liquidity grab situation. And do we have to have that? No, you don't have to have that, but it's definitely nice to see. So I was looking for potential entries as we came back into here. I just never saw anything that was screaming out to me as a good entry, especially like when price was down here. I was kind of thinking I wanted just to take it. I think it was something like this would have been 2.5 pips, I think it was, I would have needed to maybe have gotten an entry. But I definitely liked this range and definitely was interested in it. But I held off and I allowed the price, the market, to do what it does best, which is manipulate and move when it's ready. And I was ready here. I wanted to come from here. It wasn't ready yet. And so I wait for an entry to form. Starts in a liquidity grabbed state. Can we see that? Here's the liquidity grab, moves up into a liquidity grabbed state. We can see that, and moves back down into a liquidity grabbed state and touches the order block for the very first time. So three amazing liquidity grabs plus the first touch into the untouched order block, right? And then initiates away. Higher prices, there's IPA, there's all the rest of it. So one thing I really, really, really liked was how this order block here was actually qualified. And I think it must have been a 5 second range. It didn't really matter the time frame. Let's just back up here. You can see this was the range that zipped down and touched the order block. Nothing had been into this order block until this point. And so it was at that point that I'm saying that this is the order block and I'm looking for it to qualify. Qualify meaning a break of structure and to leave fair value gaps like this, and also to have taken liquidity beforehand, right? So that's a valid order block in my opinion. So it validates absolutely everything. So next thing I'm looking for is to get my entry, and I'm thinking I wanted to enter right down here, right? Especially since, as you can see, we've initiated higher prices and we haven't built any range, like, unless this is the range before the actual order block itself, like right above it. Notice how it doesn't connect. So there's a couple of interesting parts to this. So let's just go on the 15 seconds and see what happens. So my ideal entry would have been like here, right? 1.7 pips. I did end up taking a 2 pip entry, and we'll talk about my entry for sure. I would have wanted this. I didn't see it at the time. There were reasons why I wasn't looking at the screen, but this just suffice to say I didn't enter here, but would have wanted to enter like this. Allowed price to sort of just bobble around, and it wasn't until sort of here it bobbed back down, and I think maybe was that a stop? Yeah, I think I entered on a stop because I was like kind of like letting it enter into the range again and just seeing what its reaction was. You know, if it's going to blitz through it, it's just going to probably go. But it came up and tagged me in. Okay, and then I mean the rest is history. But then we start watching it sort of walk away, and so it wasn't the best looking trade by any means. Like as far as it walks away from price here. It's not initiating like super high aggressive pricing, but it didn't really matter. It was just doing range initiation, mitigation, continuation, and it was kind of nice to watch and to be on the correct side of a trade, and to enjoy it sort of moving in the direction that I wanted it to move in. So awesome trading, really good entry, good location. Where's my take profit? Well, I went for 10R. One thing I did do is as I entered here, I did have a 2 pip stop, just like this, and then I grabbed my stop and just threw it behind here for I think or threw it about there. I think it was like 2.6, 2.7 pip, but I did remain on a 10R. Like I kept it like here and just increased my stake, you could say. Um, that was all that happened there. So it definitely was a 10R trade still, but like I said, I did just open up my risk to about 1.3 or something like that percent. But that was it. And then as you can see, the big gray box above, if we go to a higher time frame, you can see what it is. It's this big one here. And sure enough, that was my target. So I could have absolutely had it like right there for 12R, but I was very happy with my 10R. No partials whatsoever, no need for partials. And another real important thing I did today is I did not move my stop. I am getting more and more comfortable leaving my stops completely open. And I think the reason is because when I enter in a trade, especially more now than say previous trading I've ever done, is as I enter into trades today, they are very specific and picky. And so if my trade's going to work out, it's going to work out for me. And if it's not, it's not. And so I'm happy to leave my stop open to allow the market to do its natural percussions, natural movements. And a lot of times I have seen that price will come back into the the range that you entered into and mitigate once more and like initiate away. I've had it 2 or 3 times. Mitigate from the same blocks. It's not unheard of at all. So that's my trade today. One hit wonder. Absolutely very happy with it. And yeah, let's smash the rest of the week. Let's have an absolutely amazing week, everyone. I hope everyone's trading is amazing. Hope everyone's doing amazing. And aloha. Catch up with you guys soon. And I'll be back with more videos. All right. Peace out.